$80 billion was handed over to Rory on a silver platter, while my father acted like he was reading a menu. Declan looked me dead in the eye and told me to get out because I was officially banished. Renly actually smiled, while my brother casually smoothed his designer suit sleeves. I sat there in the cold air conditioning, asking the one question nobody expected. Did you really just sell the whole enterprise without securing my core technology? Renly laughed and said they sold their company, but across the glass table the lead investor froze. He slowly stood up, closed his folder and looked at Declan. That was the moment I realized they had completely miscalculated. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button like this video, and drop a comment letting me know which country you are watching from today. For more wild betrayal stories, stick around because the end screen video is one you cannot miss. To understand how we reached that explosive moment, you have to rewind 8 years. Our business in Austin smelled like stale coffee, printer paper and floor cleaner. Declan wore the same gray tie to every investor meeting. Renly kept framed family photos on her desk. And my older brother Rory had a natural charisma that could win over any room. I was 35 when it all collapsed, but even in my 20s I preferred a quiet lab to the spotlight. I wore plain blazers, pinned my hair back, and kept a worn leather notebook next to my setup. That notebook contained every math equation and diagram for the automated framework that eventually made our firm worth billions. I still recall the late night when the prototype finally worked. I was 27, exhausted, and running on gas station coffee. The machine corrected its path around an unexpected obstacle without crashing. I laughed until I nearly cried. Rory took the system to an industry expo the following afternoon. He was brilliant on stage, knowing exactly how to turn complex ideas into smooth sentences for investors. When someone asked how he created it, Rory glanced at the dark back corner where I stood. For a second I thought he would credit me. He did not. Later, Renly squeezed my arm and said Rory simply needed the spotlight more than I did, reminding me that I hated public speaking anyway. That dynamic became our unwritten rule. I built, Rory presented, Declan negotiated, and Renly polished our image. Every time the company grew, my name got smaller. But there was one huge detail my family ignored. Long before we sold a single product, I had built the core system on my own time with my own money. A smart licensing specialist had warned me never to give away my property, just because I loved my relatives. So I kept total ownership of the core patents, and the right to approve any transfer if control changed. Years later, when Rory started holding secret meetings about an $80 billion buyout, I pulled out my notebook and wondered if they had forgotten what I owned. The first time I heard $80 billion, Declan mentioned it casually during dinner while cutting his steak. Rory sat across from me, sipping wine with a smug grin. Over the next 2 weeks, private strategy sessions multiplied, and my calendar invites vanished. Then a dense legal document landed in my inbox. Declan called it routine paperwork, but buried inside was a clause stating they needed my written consent to transfer my patents. The next morning, Declan leaned against my office door and told me to just sign it. When I asked why I was being treated like a loose end, his smile vanished and he told me not to make things complicated. That night, Renly called to say Rory was under immense pressure, and begged me not to turn legal property into a family argument. I reached out to an advisor I trusted, who told me not to sign anything. But 3 days later, I saw him sitting in a cafe with Rory, laughing over a contract folder. He had been bribed with a massive executive role. Disgusted, I hired an independent litigator who confirmed that my family could sell their equipment and brand, but they could not legally transfer my patents without my consent. Something shifted inside me. I decided to stay quiet and watch how far they would go. Declan eventually called me into his office and offered me $50,000 as a clean exit package to sign away my rights. When I refused, Renly started a whisper campaign, telling everyone I was emotionally unstable and taking business personally. Everything exploded at our anniversary gala. Rory was boasting to investors while Renly introduced him as the true genius. When Rory humiliated a junior developer, I stepped in. Enraged, Rory purposely tipped his wine glass, spilling red wine all over my white top. Declan looked away, and Renly whispered for me not to make a scene. I went to the restroom, called my lawyer, and told her I was done protecting them. The next morning, every communication went through legal channels. My lawyer formally notified the buyer that I had never consented to the transfer. Declan pushed toward closing anyway, believing the money made him untouchable. When the final boardroom meeting arrived, Declan declared that all $80 billion was going to Rory and told me to leave. But the buyer stopped the transaction on the spot, realizing they had a massive ownership dispute. When Rory screamed that I was holding their money hostage, my lawyer revealed evidence that Rory had tried to illegally hack into my private system to bypass my consent. The buyer walked away immediately, leaving the deal completely dead. Without my technology, the company collapsed. Declan was forced to step down in shame, and Rory faced legal investigations that destroyed his career. Months later, I launched my own independent firm built on fairness and transparency. When Renley eventually messaged asking for financial help with Declan medical bills, I paid the hospital directly without breaking my personal boundaries. I realized that true family loyalty never requires you to erase yourself. If this story hit home, hit that subscribe button, comment your thoughts below, and click the video on your screen right now for another incredible story.